The occupant is the greatest sensor you could ever have. You go to a house with your $10,000 super device and you're measuring everywhere and you're like, wow, I can hardly find any high levels of particulates. Your VOCs are good. Da, 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 da. And the occupant says, well, I don't care. I can't breathe when I'm in my bedroom.
Welcome to the Flow Lab, the podcast where we dive deep into the science of building performance and HVAC innovations. Today we bring you another insightful episode aimed to enhance your knowledge and expertise in the field. Joining us are your co-hosts, Ben Walker, co-CEO of RetroTech, and Sam Myers, a renowned building science specialist and RetroTech trainer. Together, they bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to ensure our discussions are both informative and engaging. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to enter the Flow Lab, where we'll explore the world of building performance. Let's get started.
Well, hey, Joe. Welcome on to the Flow Lab. Happy to have you.
Hey, glad to be here. Miss you guys. I wish I saw you more. Well, you guys both need to move to Colorado. So, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. I'd like to actually Boulder area or something. Like I always keep looking at that area.
Yeah, it's so cheap.
I was going to say I'm priced out. I'm priced out. Everyone else thinks it's nice there too, I guess.
There's no ocean there, so it might be hard for me to talk my wife into it. So,
got that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, we've known each other quite a while now. Really, I was trying to think of that earlier this morning. Really, it's been at least 10 years or something. Probably, I think.
Well, we put RetroTech back on the map, so that was awesome. So before I was there, they were going to shows. They were in the middle of an aisle in Lost, and the guy was doing it. I heard weird things about it, and I'm like, you got to do a session. If you go to, I don't go to a conference unless I'm getting a session. So those are kind of like the criteria. We need to be preaching our stuff. So that was the kind of the basis for that. So
that's awesome. Man. It's like all Joe's sessions are usually standing room only. Like it's amazing.
I wish I've had a few where I've had 13 people or something.
Well, we're not talking about this.
That one. There was just one. Right?
No, that's awesome. Yeah, what do you think? Like the biggest thing you've learned over that transition from like when you first started at RetroTech, like today or whatever. Like what?
There's a couple, but the one thing that I actually, you have to send your bio out on variety stuff. And one of the things I always have on my bio, and I preach for one of the first things I promote, and one of my greatest prides is RCloud. RCloud, I think, was one of the greatest things that we did. And I really wanted to promote that. And it was all about direct capture. That at the time I'm like, look what we can do. No longer do you allow people to write in their blower door numbers, or back then it was learning how to do a multi-process. And that was really difficult to write in those things. Now I realize people just do it quickly and take screenshots, and no matter what you do, if you're writing something down, you're making it up. So it's really, there's no accountability.
Yeah. So just integrity in the data and everything. Nice, easy workflows that most people can understand easily.
Yeah. And you know exactly what the measurements were. And we did that. We actually did our first version of that in 2013, maybe 14 at the latest. And hasn't changed much. It looks a lot like the prototype. In fact, all of the RCloud actually was developed in PowerPoint. Those are all PowerPoint little icons and whatever I could do. I did a lot of them in other things, but in general, the whole layout was done there. So I'm just really disappointed that, we have this ability. MeasureQuick has this ability. TEC has this ability. There's lots of things that have these abilities to directly capture what you're doing and be accountable for it. And it has zero implication, whatever it is. It's not really being used. It's easy for me to say. It's not being used anywhere in the industry, including utilities or even the companies that want to be accountable for what their people are doing in the field. ResNet, you name it. All that stuff has very little accountability. And I just am disappointed that we're not doing it. It's 2026.
Yeah.
What the heck?
The technology's there now. Yeah. I remember like back in 2013 was like RCloud was one of the first ones doing geolocation, stuff like that. So the technology's been there for a while. So yeah.
I mean, my philosophy that is measure it, capture it. In fact, I think that's a process that I'm trying to accept people. Just measure it and capture it. Measure it, capture it.
Not even for an oversight thing. I mean, just being able to save it automatically and then come back. If you have to come test that house again, you can pull it up and see exactly where it was before.
Yeah, so it comes down to prove it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Plus just reduce honest mistakes too. I mean, you have like someone who has all the best intentions or whatever, but they made a mistake that the software might be able to surface or capture or something like that, bring to light.
It is a double-edged sword. So if you're trying to get to 3 changes per hour and you're at 3.01, you fail. That's the challenge with that kind of but I'm sure you can go somewhere and tape over an outlet or something, get it down below 3, because people are already doing weird stuff like that already. But in general, that's my greatest frustration with the entire industry. The one thing I will acknowledge, because my goal was, when I left you guys, I went into healthy homes, and that was just I now call it a hobby, but I still am into air quality and healthy homes. I still preach on that. I still do sessions. I'm going to Energy Out West to do something again with Kevin Kennedy, a couple sessions. I still love that concept and what that does. And to me, when I left energy, it was because I realized that energy is a waste of energy. We spend so much time trying to save pennies for a client, but we could actually save them an enormous amount of health outcomes or feeling good or just all those things, because when you seal a house up and you start doing all of this stuff, it actually has greater health benefits. And we just really couldn't get on that board. Utilities don't get it because they can't actually monetize that. So, but we couldn't figure out other people or, people that are doing blower doors for people like, yeah, let's see your energy bill. I'm like, well, why don't you talk about their health issue? I was when I left you guys, I went to Hayward Score, and that was pretty interesting. The one thing that was shocking to me, which is actually kind of why I left, and I don't know if Bill's going to hear this or not, but we were during COVID. We have the only app that allows a homeowner to assess their concerns, assess their habits, and assess their actual conditions of their house. And we couldn't figure out a way to make it happen.
Just like to gain awareness and get it out there to the masses to use. Yeah.
And I tried to figure out how to make this work with contractors, and that just became logistics. So I'm like, okay, this is what I came here to do, and we're not doing it. So I need to move on. So to me, my last challenge was HVAC. I mean, it's a challenge for even people that are in HVAC that they're still trying to figure it out. Or it really is, rocket surgery and rocket science. I mean, you're taking gases and compressing them and expanding them and running them from an inside and outside and through little veins and all kinds of stuff with a bunch of things. That's rocket science. Yeah. And we really don't acknowledge that that's what these guys are doing. These people are doing. They're doing rocket science in your house. And it's the one thing that people just don't want to accept, that we need to figure out more about how this works. And luckily I'm with Jim, who's just a guru and a god on, he does everything. It's in MeasureQuick, all those numbers in his head.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's stunning. So I'm still trying to master that part of it. So I don't think I'll become an HVAC technician, but I am getting closer to understanding the real process, and now heat pumps are in and reversing valves and stuff. So I'm really happy with where my trajectory has gone.
So what is your role at MeasureQuick now then? When you have an official title there now and stuff? Or?
Yeah, I made one up. I'm the director of training.
Okay, nice.
So I really get to focus on training. And so I've been going to the symposium since it started. I realized when I was in the room that in general, most of our things we do, building science and HVAC in general, these are religions. These are people who are dedicated as a religion to their life. But some of them are cults, right? So like NCI is a cult. ACA's kind of.
I'm sure they appreciate being called that.
There's a bunch of people that are core to them, and clearly MeasureQuick is a cult. And I'm like, we need more people to preach the word of MeasureQuick. That's what came to me. Like, oh, we need more trainers. We need more people to go out and spread the word and bring people into MeasureQuick. So we are in the process of that. I thought it would be a lot easier, but it is not. MeasureQuick is incredibly difficult and challenging app.
Yeah. So for some of the listeners, maybe not up to speed, but what is MeasureQuick? How's it used? What do you do with it?
I don't know. I thought you guys were
asking the tough questions. I know, but
yeah, I know. So MeasureQuick, for those who aren't familiar with that, and even people in the HVAC, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys remember MeasureQuick? And they're like, measure what? I'm like, okay. So MeasureQuick is an app that you can download from your app store, similar to our cloud, that helps HVAC technicians figure out what's wrong with the system, because there's a lot wrong and they're all struggling to figure out how to fix it. So we use a variety of wireless probes, and probably over a dozen different manufacturers work with us directly. So we're probe agnostic, so we don't actually work directly with anyone. So you can get your Bluetooth probes, connect them to MeasureQuick, put them in on the system, and we do all the diagnostics for you. We tell you everything you need to know about that system while it's running. Yeah. And so you can use that for an install, or mostly very powerful for a service call. So the thing I did learn a lot about the difference between people in the building science or other things versus these guys. These guys want a challenge. They didn't want to be electricians or plumbers, because you don't change the pressure on a toilet to help it flush. You undo the clog or do whatever. It's very cut and dry.
Yeah.
But this industry, they want to figure it out. They want to open up that cover and figure out what's going on. It's just scratching their head and looking online, and they love it. It's a puzzle, and they love the puzzle.
Plus, also just making an impact too, and that person's health or comfort.
So those are things that I think those people, that's what they strive for, is they need that in order to fulfill their needs. So that's why they didn't go into the other trade. They really went to this one because every day's a puzzle. Not just every day's new, but there's also these weird things that happen on this system versus that system. And I got to figure this out. So we help that. The challenge is that these people want to figure it out themselves, and now you actually put an app in their hand to help them. So it's kind of like, I want to be helped, but no, I don't want to be helped. And I use the analogy of the automobile industry, around the turn of the century there, that suddenly cars had computers, and then you needed to take your car to someplace that could do diagnostics, and the mechanics were like not happy about this. They're like, what? I'll figure it out. I know what the problem is with these vehicles.
I want to plug a computer into this and have it figured out for me. Yeah.
Within seconds, they're like, okay, here's your priorities. Here's what you fix and do. And it took them a long time to accept that that's what I need to focus on, and that's where my industry is going. And this industry is not willing to accept that. There's somebody here to help you make more money, do it right, do it quickly, do it better. And they're just really reluctant to embrace that there's a better system than what their own knowledge in.
I kind of think of MeasureQuick as like, if you take your car to a mechanic, you have the diagnostic port you can plug into and just kind of see what's going on. I feel like your app kind of does that for any HVAC system, where you just take whatever probes you have, install them, and then it tells you what's going on. You can't argue with it, save it, you can share it. It makes sense.
Try to tell people that, if you think you can do all your diagnostics just by figuring stuff out yourself with just a few probes on a system, why would you not want to have all of our collective knowledge and all this other stuff happening for you? In fact, I describe, people have illustrations where Jim pops out of your bag. Like, you have Jim Bergman with you in your app. All of that stuff is what he's learned and what we've learned together from so many other people. So it just seems challenging that we still struggle with that. So I have other criticisms, but I'll wait. Come back to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool potential like down the road too. Tim DeStasio and I have been playing around. He put together some sensors that we put on my Mitsubishi system that collects pretty much everything that you would need to enter into MeasureQuick. So he can sit anywhere in the country and see what my system's doing, enter it into MeasureQuick, and see if it's performing the way that it should.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like there's some really cool stuff that could evolve from that.
Yeah, I'm putting a new system in my house, and let's coordinate how to get those sensors on my house so we can figure that out. So yeah. Right. So if anybody's listening to this and you are an HVAC technician, you are not who I'm criticizing right now, because you are above average. You're listening to these podcasts. You're probably doing other stuff, but I'll go do trainings and I'll be like, hey, who here is involved with Brian Orr? Who here listens to HVAC School? And half the class doesn't know who Brian Orr is, or doesn't know who Tim DeStasio is, or doesn't know who anybody is. And I don't say it out loud, but I'm like, why don't you get the F out of the way? Because you're just a body. Maybe your company needs a body to keep going to these houses, but you're the problem, because you don't accept this as your role, your profession. You're not making yourself better as a technician. So when there's so many opportunities for you to be better, and I just don't see technicians really engaging to learn more, to do stuff. So, everybody's and there's so much great information out there that everybody's sharing. And so that's my greatest frustration, is that they're just not making themselves better or getting engaged in that program. Like, go do something else.
Step one is you have to care.
Yeah, you have to care. That's right. And get better. Care about yourself.
I would say that's probably my curiosity is probably the biggest driver for my success, really. Just always curious, always trying to learn more about something or whatever, and not always like being inside the guidelines either, in the sense like, Colin told me back in the day that, he didn't want me to develop a digital pressure gauge, and I did it anyway. So sometimes.
Yeah, the one thing that I always loved is having all of the tools and toys and stuff that set them up. And the blower door simulator was one of the greatest things ever invented. I have a little air conditioning unit that I started off with MeasureQuick. That's what Jim started off with when he first had it. And I got a grant to build this amazing mobile trainer. That's a heat pump that's got a air handler, and I've got 3 or 4 slots for filters, so I can do all kinds of different stuff. My duct system comes off, and I can actually do duct diagnostics. I got a trailer. I can take it anywhere and be like, okay, I'm not limited by your piece of equipment that has no plenum on the top and no bottom. Can't even do static pressure, and you call this a train unit. So I'm like, I'll just bring mine. So I can play in my garage. Awesome. I got to get back to playing in my garage, but that's been one thing I love to do is like, okay, let's see what these numbers do.
That air handler that you have, it's like on a mobile pallet or something like that. You move around to all the different trainings that you do.
Yeah, it looks like it's a monster. I mean, it's got unistrut that goes all the way up and around. So you actually can, it's really encased, right? So it's easy to move. The duct system comes off at the top and can be put back on. It clamps on real quick. And then you add the additional ductwork if you want it. The guy who built it was an artist. He really was phenomenal. Everything is diamond plate. It is a pretty amazing unit. So I take it with me to around Colorado to do training. I'll even take it to the Stevens where I do training, just because it's a simple thing to see it all once and have options between what they have and what I have.
I feel like doing things in garages has been a common theme on this podcast.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. That's where everything started. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What can we do together? That's one of the questions that we should be asking while we're on here. So, we have nothing to clarify here. To those who are listening, there's nothing we have planned. There's things that we're trying to do together as MeasureQuick or RetroTech. There's no secrets here, but right now we're just trying to figure out what it is that works for you guys and us. So, just curious as if you like, let's look 2 years from now. What is it that we think could work? And again, direct capture is something that I'm always after.
Yeah, awesome. As far as like instrumentation and stuff like that, I mean, definitely would want to work together on trying to integrate some of the new stuff that RetroTech's working on in the near future and everything. Playing off what you're mentioning here too, is just like, how do we get the message out there to maybe the people who just don't know about any of these tools or the opportunities to use this software to better the work they're doing? And like, it always seems like when you go to these conferences and everything, it's always the same group of people. And like, how do you just get the message out there really, and what we could do to work together on doing that? And I think these kind of podcasts are opportunities to kind of do that.
And there's probably some opportunities for app sharing too. We can share data from our cloud, whether if it's a duct test or an envelope test, and push it to MeasureQuick. And that way, the HVAC tech can have everything in one piece of software and in one report. There's probably some opportunities for that too.
So I don't know about you guys, but I don't know who actually does duct testing, because it's an HVAC anomaly. They're like, duct testing? So I mean, yeah, right. Ducts? Well, we don't even replace or fix those. We just do the box. I'm like, okay, all right. If you wonder what your problem is,
of the system,
yeah. There's air coming out of it. It's good.
Airflow measured it. You can measure airflow. What? But there are some people that do. There are people that really are doing a lot of amazing diagnostics and really going out of their way. And unfortunately, somebody else comes in. It's same price and doesn't do half that crap, and says that it's just as good because they said so. So
then the homeowner doesn't understand about the difference of like the delivered results or whatever. So
homeowners know a lot more about their car than their home, and they know nothing about their HVAC system unless it doesn't work, right? Or unless it doesn't provide good comfort, and they're willing to eventually step up and call somebody. But in general, my wife said, "Well, that's just how homes work, right?" I'm like, not supposed to. So
I think Sam and others talk about like there's no manual for your house, right? So like as a homeowner, a new homeowner coming in, they
call somebody and hope for the best.
Exactly.
That's what happens.
What like as the house is a system, and then someone's coming in and do diagnostics from like the airflow or the indoor air quality, the health aspect and stuff like that. What are like some of the big things that you think people kind of miss that like you're always surprised about, like that, like you can't believe they don't see this?
The number one thing I encourage you and any listener and you guys to do is stop calling it house as a system. It's house and occupant as a system, because we keep leaving the occupants out.
Yeah,
they're the major driver, major problem, if you get people out of the house does great. So
and the aspect of like, it depends on like if the person that's there has like asthma or something like that, you're gonna have to treat this.
No, what, do they got 6 kids and 4 dogs, or do the couple living alone? That home completely is in a different environment and works completely different. So it isn't just that they have potential health outcomes, but it's also like, how are they using the house? That some people never open their windows. Other people like are constantly opening windows and stuff, or, there's a variety of stuff that gets brought in and out. If you got animals, they're tracking stuff in and out, which actually has a positive impact for your indoor air quality. So, in your immune system. So however the home is really operating, it's depending on that thing we kind of leave out as the occupant. So get the occupant more into the discussion as to how the house is operating, then you'll learn more about that. So if you just talk to your homeowner or whatever, whoever's there, tell me about your house. Tell me more about your house. How that happened, how long, when, whatever. Do you might try and fix that, and stop trying to tell them what the problem is, because the person living there knows way more about their own body in that house than you could ever try and diagnose, because you got some tools. And there was one thing I did learn from Hayward Score that was really pretty shocking for me. So I learned from Bill that the occupant is the greatest sensor you could ever have. So you go to a house with your $10,000 super device and you're measuring everywhere, and you're like, wow, I can hardly find any high levels of particulates. Your VOCs are good, and the occupant says, well, I don't care. I can't breathe when I'm in my bedroom, or this house makes me sneeze a lot. So those things that we read are never as accurate as the occupant. So if you just trust the occupant and use them as the diagnostic tool to figure out When is it happening? Where is it happening? Close all your doors and whatever, leave for a couple hours, come back and try and see if you can't figure out where that might be. And it's maybe all the crap you got underneath your sink or your bathroom or something. Use them as the actual super accurate tool. That was actually pretty enlightening, that between Bill and Carl Grimes, to learn how to really work with an occupant. That is a challenge. And even most of us, we have those issues, and we keep thinking I can get something to measure my house, and you've already got it. It's you. Maybe you can get other stuff to confirm or deny, or look for other places, or see how leaky it is. So that was one bonus that I stumbled into, is that the blower door is not the blower door. It's a exposure pathway measurement device.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things that you preach.
What would you ask those homeowners, like, to help diagnose the current situation at their home then?
Yeah, so it'd be more like, so tell me about how your home works for you. Are there times or places where you feel that you're not comfortable? And comfortable is not a temperature thing. It's like, are there areas you really don't want to go to, or when are those happening? What kind of stuff is happening? Have you changed any of your furniture, or you've done anything to change your house? Have you changed the chemicals or whatever you're using for detergent or laundry, or, to get new clothes? Any of those things can actually be a trigger that was completely off a different level. So if you get them to think more, that's one of the things Hayward's score did, is it got people that took the score to rethink about their house and how they work their house, or things they have, and all the stuff around them that they really weren't in tune with. That suddenly they were like, okay, I now realize that there's some other things I should pay attention with. So if anything, it was an indirect educational tool for homeowners to understand that I don't use my kitchen exhaust fan very well, or I'm not using my bathroom fans as much as I should, or whatever. So you kind of can get them to be more in tune with how they use their house, or what those problems are. And now you can be like, okay, so let's go ahead and do. And there are tests you can do to try and determine if there's a high levels of VOCs in certain parts of the house. In general, if you have these little devices that you have in your house to measure, you should have a couple of them, and what changed and why. Don't focus on the numbers, focus on the change.
Yeah.
Indoor air quality is not a thing. It's not a box. It's not a number. It's not a thing that measured it. It's not even you. It is indoor air quality is personal. I should leave it at that. So indoor air quality is only a personal condition for you. So we could all be in the same house, and like we said, react differently. And I could measure the house as an abstract or a construct. Okay, we measured this room. It doesn't really matter. It's really mattering about, like, what is the occupant experiences. So indoor air quality is a personal condition. And we keep thinking about indoor air quality as this thing and these numbers, and we compare them to, EPA, then we get in your house, but we use these numbers to compare, 25 particles and all this kind of stuff. But it isn't. It's really about what do these things impact you. So we really start thinking about more of indoor air quality as a completely personal concept. It's not an abstract or a construct. It is actually something that's a personalized condition.
Yeah, watching you and Kevin present together is always, I learned something new every time.
I learned a long time ago that when you see somebody like that person's amazing, that I will be like, hey, what are you doing for dinner? When can we connect? Hey, I see you're presenting it at the conference. You're interested in somebody helping you. So that happened with Cullen Ginge, right? That happened with Kevin Kennedy. That happened with Jim Bergman.
So that's like how you've grown your career, really, like the.
It is indeed. I'm like, okay, what can I do to help you and step it up? And if nothing else, I'll make your slides look amazing. So that's my one takeaway I can do. Yeah.
It reminds me of this one time we were at this Brazilian steakhouse, and
they wouldn't give me the meat I wanted.
You don't let Joe get hangry.
We're paying big money for this. Get over here. I don't want
consequences.
Yeah, there are consequences. Awesome. That's right. So, So
you have some upcoming like trainings or anything that happening at MeasureQuick?
So at our website, upskillhvac.com, that's where we list all of those. There's also the ability for anybody to become a trainer, any kind of training. In fact, you're welcome to list your trainings on our site, because it's not limited to HVAC.
Awesome.
It's limited to people that want to promote their trainings, and it's free. So what we really designed it for is people that are trying to do trainings that don't have the ability to promote it, don't have a website, don't have the ability to collect money. Or if you've got all that, you can still try and get one more exposure, because we're going to promote it in our newsletters, or people will find it on that page, or LinkedIn, whatever. So if you're looking to be a trainer, and there's some people who are like, oh, I want to do, heat pump hot water tanks training. I'm like, that'd be great. Get on the site and post your training. So it's really easy to get acknowledged as a trainer, you get approved. There's nothing you have to do if you really want to get trained, and I have opportunities for that. They're all listed on the site there, but in general, you can just fill out our form and start listing your trainings on there. So it's really, our goal is an open process for people that are looking for a way to expose their trainings. So
yeah, awesome. It's upskill at MeasureQuick.com.
Upskill, it's completely separate. So upskillhvac.com.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
And the reason we went with upskill, for obvious reasons, it's like that's what everybody talks about. That's what grants are doing, and we've got a couple of great grants because we weren't just MeasureQuick. We were, providing upskill services and doing a variety of other stuff. So it was, a variety of measurements or processes, and trying to give people a better chance to be in the workforce with that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Oh, awesome.
One thing I think about, we were talking about COVID earlier. For all of these HVAC companies that really just rely on a sales strategy to sell a new system, well, that kind of went away in COVID, right? Because you couldn't get stuff, couldn't get systems. And so now what? You got to learn how to fix it. You got to learn how to diagnose it. And so I feel like that was a wake up call for a lot of companies that actually, you actually got to learn how to diagnose and fix the thing. And so I would hope that the industry would, start taking that more seriously. And I just always have seen MeasureQuick being a good gateway to that.
Yeah. And now the issue that's come into play is okay, how do I diagnose this system and determine if it's ready for replacement, and or is this system problem, or is it actually just a duct system problem, are the ducts too small, and that kind of stuff. So I think we're realizing now that,
or a house problem.
Or a house problem. That's right. Yeah. So even when I was a home inspector, I was preaching for a long time. I'm like, maybe your HVAC, but it's probably your house. And there's very few people that are accepting that your blower door not just will help you with a manual J and get you accurate numbers, but can help you figure out that it's not me. It isn't our system. Our system is showing that it's operating correctly. It's your 35-year-old house that's got leaky windows and just leaks in general. So let's find out about your house. And that even if you don't want to fix it, you at least pass the responsibility on to them to tell them it's not us as an HVAC contractor, it's the house. And there's lots of people out there that can help do that, but wish there was more. But yeah, that's definitely something that, in fact, when I was down in Florida, I was lucky to go down and train over 300 HVAC contractors.
Oh, wow.
During their new process on, they adopted a new code, which was if the house was below 5, you needed to add mechanical ventilation, right?
Right.
So I'm like, well, I encourage you guys to get your own blower door. Of course, that wasn't going to go anywhere. I'm like, okay, just buy a pressure pan, okay? Because when they fail, you're going to go out and actually, while they have the blower door running, you can use the pressure pan with their gauge, because they probably don't have a pressure pan, and confirm, is it you or is it the plumber that cut all these huge holes in different parts of the house that caused it to leak? Because they're always going to blame you about the process. So, they didn't go, well, what do you think the number one question in every class I had? Sometimes I would ask it twice. I'm like, oh, are you sure? What do you think the question was, Sam?
So this is in Florida?
Can I ask him to do that?
Yeah, Florida. That's right. So you got to be below 5, right?
Yeah.
So if you're above 5, you still could be okay, but you really had to be below 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, sure. Can I open up a window or something like that?
No, even better, permanent. Can I just put a hole into
can I just make it leakier? Yeah.
Can I put a hole through the wall? Put a little damper on it? Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number one question. Every class had that. So I'm like, no. I'm like,
yeah.
We
still hear that one a lot.
Yeah. Their concern was a mechanical system bringing in moisture. And I got that, but I'm like, well, let's figure out a way to control that. Or maybe you need a dehue.
What do you think that hole to the outside is going to do? It's
yeah.
So those are some of the challenges that go along with how people think about how a home works or what they can do to a house. So yeah, building science is a total mystery for so much of the industry. Yeah,
one step at a time.
Hey, jumping around a little bit, but like Bill from the Hayward Score, he started that whole thing because of his experience with building a new home or something like that with off-gassing.
Yeah, his story is his story is kind of amazing because he's a wealthy guy and his wife's they did well, but they had this really amazing house out on the coast in California in Monterey, and it was an older home and it had issues in the crawl space that really weren't that evident, but it was enough so they moved in, and pretty quickly they all started feeling pretty sick and ill, and he actually became so debilitated that it took him 2 years to recover. His wife could no longer have kids. Their daughter started growing. And this is also why I left indoor air quality a long time ago. Is people are like, oh, well, that's in the crawl space. That doesn't impact your house. You don't breathe crawl space. And he did this test, which is pretty amazing. Like, they're like, go get some lemon pledge and go down to the crawl space and get on the phone with your wife and spray it and find out if she can smell the lemon pledge upstairs. And she could. They're like, oh my God. So it was the simplest test you could do, the lemon pledge test. So that was enough for them to move out immediately. And they went and built another home. And they realized at that home, they did extensive testing because he could do that. And it was mold, but people don't realize that when you have mold, you probably have a lot of bacteria. Bacteria isn't able to be seen. It's not like visible like mold. So there's a variety of stuff that's happening. If you got high moisture, you got visible mold, you got a lot of crappy stuff happening. So that's what got into their lungs and it really debilitated them forever, but they were able to kind of get their body back to functioning again. So they go build a new home. All right. So they're going to build a brand new home, and Carl Grimes evaluates every piece of material that's going to be put into the house. And back then there was very little discovery. So there was no like HPDs or other healthy product declarations or that kind of stuff. And so the only you had were your safety disclosures, and those are for the installer or whoever's using the product. So he would look at those and then he would call the company and they would be like, oh, well, what are you looking for? What are your issues? Within days, they would change their SDS sheets to suddenly those kind of chemicals would not even be listed anymore because they didn't have an impact on the installer, but maybe the occupant. So, so they installed the house and they did all their testing only to find out that within, they'd had a close up for 2 days and all of these VOCs and all these chemicals showed up that were never disclosed. And they just spiked out of control. They were well over, the World Health Organization for VOCs is around 500 as their threshold. And he was well in the 2000s, but he had a Zender in his house. So they turned on the Zender and that was it. So it convinced me and it convinced him that, really good balanced mechanical ventilation is the key to having a really good environment. So I got that pretty quickly. I preach that all the time, that step it up. I don't really promote putting it into the larger HVAC system, even though people do. I think it's two different types of mechanical stuff that really should work great separately. If you're going to do them together, then you got to be on your game to measure that or confirm those kind of flows. And people end up with circulating measurements. But in general, he really inspired the concept that, your home, it clearly impacts your health, even as an existing home or even building these new homes. In fact, I would never buy a new home. The amount of stuff that's in the materials. In fact, I've done other sessions on chemical dependency because we're dependent on these chemicals that are in our houses and in our lives and all the stuff that shows up. And so I also did one recently out in Maine. I did it last year in HPC. It was about, it was a defending toxic materials. I was willing to defend the toxic materials because we don't have enough disclosures in order for people to disclose what's in there. We don't require that, nor are we requiring good balanced ventilation as a requirement. So if you have these chemicals, you're not going to change the material industry. That's it. They're going to build this stuff and make these stuff. We're still going to use it, but why not go the other half and require balanced mechanical ventilation? And as Paul Raymer and HVI also focus on, the person should be trained and know how to design it and commission it. And we've just not accepted that your ventilation system really needs to have somebody who knows what they're doing and commission it. And we've yet to accept that as a part of that thing. We're just put the fan in. I'm sure it's fine. And how do you measure 10 CFM? You guys know how to measure 10 CFM.
Sure.
Most of the industry do not know how to do that. Yeah. So that's my Bill Hayward story about him and what that actually did for me about why mechanical balanced ventilation is the key to a really great home. Yeah. So on that note, so I do have a Zender. It's in my garage in a box. I do have also a Broan system. All these were amazing, generous donations and a Panasonic, all in a box in my garage. And the challenge is that we live in a place where we open our windows and doors a lot, right? So even on most days during the middle of the day, it's kind of sunny and temperature goes up. It drops every night, but during the day, we really are ventilating our house naturally. So if I had a system, it would be limited on its use. So I figured out a path to how to do it. And I'm probably going to put one of them in upstairs to just do the upstairs as a process. Or when I sell the house, like, hey, I got mechanical balanced ventilation upstairs. So it's a bonus. But I think if you know how to use your house, that's great. But if you don't, then these things will change your world on how you breathe. And there is one bonus is that we do have dust because we open our windows and doors a lot. So
yeah,
that's always
like I live in some farmland and stuff like that. So yeah, dust is the biggest thing here.
So if you close up your windows and doors, you have mechanical ventilation, then your dust is down. In fact, Bill's house was amazing because it was not just, he had no mechanical system that was forced air. Everything was ambient. Even he had ambient cooling and he had radiant cooling and heat. So it was silent.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
in
awesome,
his
man.
house. It was kind of weird, but yeah, it was amazing. And it was dust free anywhere in his house. He does have people come clean it, but you can't clean everywhere. But it was stunning how dust free his house was and how silent it was. There are amazing,
That's awesome, man.
indirect benefits to having a great house. So but our cars have these now, right? Our cars have really good ventilation systems and incredibly quiet. But
yeah.
Well, if you find yourself then that Zinder's still sitting in your garage a year from now and it's still in the box, you can send it to me.
Okay, we can work something out. Yeah. The challenge is to get it installed in a place and get everything ducted. So I was able to do it. My house has this nice, I could put a chase right here from my basement all the way up to the attic and catch things on the way. But it just was, my God, that's a lot of effort. I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of it. I know there's benefits, but not when you open your windows and doors.
The cost it.
Yeah.
And again, it's like about the occupants that live there, like you mentioned earlier, right? And how they treat the environment, the house and everything. So
yeah, somebody else may move in here and never open. If I walk around, you walk around your neighborhood and you're like, my God, it is 60 degrees out and or 80 degrees, 70. And like there's times where you can open your windows and doors and people just never do it. I never see my neighbors opening their windows. It's like
yeah.
We don't see a lot of that here either. Usually if it's like if it's weather where we can have it, there's high pollen out or just high humidity. So we don't see a lot of it here where we are.
That is one of the greatest things that I do appreciate is lack of humidity. It is just, yeah. So whenever we go to these conferences, half the discussions went down to symposium and half the discussions are about how to control humidity and DHU, and Tim DeStasio's a master at this thing. And I'm like, you know what? My solution is just move
to Colorado.
Well, no, there's an entire there's more than half the country where it's actually pretty dry. It doesn't want it to be hot. But yeah, there are other places. So there's lots of northern Colorado. There's great places in the mountains and New Mexico and a variety of places. So you can just move.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
This one year, like a couple of years ago, I had my indoor air quality monitor send me an alert to my phone, told me that for fresh air, I should consider opening up my windows, whatever. I was like, well, actually.
Yeah, mine used to give me alerts because it was too dry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's below 20. This is dangerous. So I'm like, well, I thank you for your acknowledgement, but I think, there's only like 200 million people that live in these kind of climates. Nobody's getting the flu. Nobody's drying out. Nobody's coughing. So I'll figure it out. So I
guess people do need some guidelines there or whatever, and like some data as a baseline to try to make some just decent decisions around and stuff.
All right, so I got one last topic. Ben and I have talked about this before. So our greatest indoor air quality risk that we have as the world, but in general for us, because this is where we live, is wildfires. Right. Mm-hmm. And I preach that and I try to like make people feel really bad. I'm like, you're going to think of me when you have a wildfire issue because it will impact you. In fact, I believe in the box fan. The Corsi concept is 4 fans. It's great. It takes up a lot of space, but I got like probably 4 fans and I probably got 40 filters in my garage ready. Those things that you use for cheap weatherization around the windows, I got a bunch in my garage. I'm ready for that dumb impact that happens, but I don't think most people are. But Ben and I talked about, let's figure out a way to determine your risk based upon your blower door numbers and where you live and what are the recent wildfire activities and what kind of numbers have been documented in your community. Right? So if I know my blower door leakage, then I could do some worst case estimate of here's how impacted you could be in your house based upon these numbers. So most people have a newer home. Even if you don't have your blower door number, you could assume by your code, or you get somebody to come out and try to do some updating for, fire smoke or prevention. So I think there's something that we really have yet to catch on. And I think this summer can be pretty horrific for us in the West because you guys got all kinds of moisture and snow and all kinds of stuff. We did not.
It's like a dry season for us.
Yeah, it can be really bad for us this year. So Anyway, I think that reason people react is because it impacts them. So you have more than I do, Ben. You guys have all of that stuff from yourself in California.
And sometimes from British Columbia, Canada as well. Like,
right.
Depending on the jet streams and everything. Yeah. Sometimes it's pretty bad. Like it's hard to see out there. Sometimes the haze is so bad out there.
So I do think there's a home index about your exposure to wildfire smoke. So I think if there's something that we want to take away from here, whether you throw this out as a public comment or not, but I think that's something that we've talked about this, and now that
we should try to do something.
You have amazing AI skills, and I'm sure by the time we're done with your editing this, you'll have this app out. Like, oh, Joe, I got this.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun though.
That's a good point. So, like you said, it's an infiltration pathway. So,
right.
That accounts for anything that moves through the air.
It does. Yeah. And I do think that's actually something we're just not really showing how we can help people make their house better. So those are some of my
and it's like one of the things that you don't see the immediate impact of it too either. So like it's something that you'll find out later down the road that you may have should have done or something like that or considered. But that's the unfortunate part, I guess. But
so, what do you guys got as takeaways from our friendships and our whatever, all the stuff we've done together? So, yeah.
Oh man, it's been great, Joe. I mean, like, consider you one of my closest friends. One thing is like, just we need more people like you out there. Really, just like your enthusiasm when you're doing these presentations and stuff, and how engaging you are and everything like that. Like, I think that's what we really need is just more Sams and Joes in the world. Really.
No, we need Ben to step up and be enthusiastic.
I'm like Oz behind the curtain, whatever.
You keep finding somebody like us to push out there, like, hey, let's go do that. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be my biggest takeaway. I just need more people like you guys out there.
Yeah, and Joe, I wouldn't know Ben if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't have gotten introduced to you guys and sitting where I am, doing what I am today, and having learned what I've learned. And I'm just thankful that sometimes when you take over for somebody, there's just a big mess you have to clean up. Like you left the opposite. Like you had this structure built, all these excellent educational materials that I still use. And I've now been with RetroTech for 8 years, and there's some stuff that I just haven't touched because it works. And
I love going to your sessions and seeing my own slides. I'm like,
there's no need to fix that. It's not broken.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, thanks for everything. Still, I mean, this, all the conversations that we continue to have today are just, I learn something new every time.
There is one ask that I have. You guys have this nice little pressure house that you've got with a duct system, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about how can you increase the size of that duct system, right? And see if it actually would play out in the real world. Like if you scaled that up 3 times, like, so they're little pieces that are still like, would look similar to what you have in a PVC kind of model in terms of 1/2 inch or 3/4, but would you actually get the same airflow conditions if you had a fan that you knew how much, small amount of pressure? So then I could change components. So can I actually teach people about designing a system and change out some of these 3D printed components, because PVC is not the same. So you actually have really good, accurate HVAC modeling, right? That I'm like, God, it'd be great if we could figure out a way to be like, this transition is equivalent to 80 feet. This transition is equivalent to 12 feet. And could we actually 3D print some of these things and actually show the amount of pressure that we're getting out of the system with that kind of stuff? So, or even see it throw across the room, because you can do modeling, but it's really not the same when you can actually be like, okay, well, let's do a little Lego set just to do a few examples of like, what that will look like. So that would be my ask, if you guys could think about how can you teach HVAC design through your 3D modeling. Because right now it looks beautiful, but it'd be great if we could actually see real airflows through that little house you've got, or even just through a system itself. So that's my ask.
Two, just showing the consequences of putting in an undersized duct system that we see all the time versus one that's properly sized to the system. So, I think that's great.
Yeah, the Mad Air House, which you can get the design for online at www. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you can promote that. Throw that down there. That's awesome stuff. That's right. Yeah, right. Yep. Those things are really incredibly visual, and you can actually do things with them. So, I think I made some other props recently where I took an outdoor AC coil and I cut it in half so I could travel with it. I show people where to put probes, and then they could turn it around and suddenly see how the whole coil system worked. So it was for radars and weatherization people to learn how to do non-invasive, because I could travel with an outdoor condenser that was fit in a bag, and I can take the whole thing apart and put it in a bag and travel with it. So I do think that visualizing stuff for people, for these kind of learners is huge. So you got to
that one prop reminds me of that one prop you have with the mask that's like tied right directly into the wall cavity or whatever.
Yeah, what are you breathing?
Everything.
I gave that to, I donated that to construction instruction, because I'm like, I would go teach there and do IAQ, and I'm like, you should just have this. So if I'm not there, you can still use it. So I gave that to them recently. And
awesome. I'll try to throw a picture of that in here somewhere. But
yeah, I'll send you one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I worked on some questions like last night just before, and before going to sleep and everything. Then I woke up at one point with this dream that I was like in this super dusty room, and so obviously, obviously had an impact on my dreams.
Sure.
Last night,
yeah.
so.
Where'd that dust come from? That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Anything new coming out with MeasureQuick or anything, like a new update or anything that would be interesting to know about? Like,
you guys have been embracing AI, and we are dug deep into AI. And we've also, Jim did a great session at the symposium about AI. And if you want to, you can go see that there, and pay the $35 and get everybody's online or whatever it is. But in general, we figured AI out, and that is that it answers your direct questions. Don't ask it to be like, what's the diagnostics on this system? And here's my numbers. So they can't do that. And it'd probably never be able to do that. But what it can say is like, if my numbers are high because, and so we've been able to take AI and convert it only into MeasureQuick as a controlled environment. So we have AI built in, so you can ask, what is my superheat? Is my superheat high? What's causing my superheat to be high? Make it quicker, faster to get your score. All that's coming out. We do have one that we're working on right now that's how to do heat pumps in heat mode with just temperature probes and a couple of electrical measurements, which will be a game changer, because you don't have to get inside. You have to get inside the unit, but connecting to pressure probes is just a challenge for a lot of people. Yeah, we're moving towards how to make it faster, simpler for technicians to get into MeasureQuick. You got to profile the system. That's our greatest challenge, is people can't do that. Our goal is to figure out how to make it simpler for people to use MeasureQuick and get better diagnostics. So those are all things we're changing right now. So.
Cool. So how do people stay in touch and learn about the latest and greatest when it happens?
Yeah, so MeasureQuick.com, not too complicated. You can reach out to me directly, Joe@MeasureQuick.com. We have a YouTube channel that's got a lot of our greatest stuff on there. And as I mentioned, you can go to upskillhvac.com and learn more about our training or other things we've got. And just whatever it is you need, we're trying to get more people around the country, but if not, we'll figure out a way to help you, even if it's just get on a phone call and help you get into that. So I do think that we will change. Jim Bergman had the concept. He wanted to change HVAC. Like Bill Gates did with PCs, or Apple did with whatever the guy's name was. Yeah,
Steve Jobs.
They wanted to change how people interacted with these things, and I think Jim was onto something. But it's just we need to get more people to engage in how to become better at it. So, but he did provide the tool that people would need to become a great HVAC technician. So if his dream comes true, it'll change how people's homes operate. So that's our takeaway.
Well, awesome, Matt. That's a great mission. Yeah. All right, perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Joe.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. I'm totally dig what you guys are doing. And Sam, keep going, bro. You're making amazing connections. In fact, you keep telling me, hey, are you connected with this guy? I'm like, no, but I should be. So yeah.
For sure, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.